order. Jean, Kim, and Mark are absent this evening. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item, we need to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Any comments? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. We don't have any board committee reports tonight since it's summertime and a couple people are absent. So superintendent reports.
Yeah, the main thing is we have a lot of good news, and again, we want to congratulate the baseball team on their trek to the state tournament, finishing second place. It was a great season, being in the largest class, being the smallest school, second smallest school, I believe, in the largest class in 4A, and yeah, it was a great run, so congratulations to the players and coaches, and it was fun to see everyone, even though we got delayed with the rain on Thursday night, but how many New Prague people were there? It was at least 10-1, the count was, compared to the other schools, so it was a great run and very positive. So, and then the other thing, congratulations to our clay target team for winning the state title for the second time, and Woodrow Glazier, our senior, 3-time state champ. He had a perfect score, 100 out of 100 targets, so we'll have to add clay target again to the sign that's outside town for a state champion. So congratulations to them. And then the other thing, about a week ago in the Star Tribune, I'm not sure everyone saw it, but New Prague School District was recognized as one of the top workplaces in the national standard. It's a survey that's taken by all staff at different businesses and organizations and school districts, stuff like that. So we're very pleased to announce that we're one of the top workplaces. And like I said, that was in the Star Tribune a week ago Sunday. So that's all great news as we head into summer here.
Thank you. Sandy, second reading and the approval of the budget.
PowerPoint or the PDF? No, the PowerPoint. Okay. Nope. Yes, you got it to work?
Yeah, we just had to take it back.
Okay, great. Okay. Thank you. Tonight will be the final and second reading of the preliminary 2019-20 budget. We are required by state statute to have an approved budget by June 30th of each year for the following year. So really tonight I just summarized some of the changes that have happened since the first reading. Tim did approve another 1.0 FTE at Falcon Ridge fourth grade, which added about $65,000. We did have one, the fourth grade that was a little bit on the high side, but went over with several students registering, so we needed to add something there. The next two bullet items are actually the next three are positive items as far as revenue. Special ed revenue, fiscal year 18-19, we were being prorated at the state level. I didn't think the legislators included an adjustment to that, but they did. I found out at a meeting I went to in the middle of June. So that increases 18-19 revenue by a little over $83,000. And then we also were able to increase the 19-20 special ed revenue projections by $160,000 due to the new cross-subsidy aid, as well as the elimination of the statewide adjustment factor that the legislatures approved.
So do they pay you the fiscal 18-19 like late in the fiscal year?
Yeah, so there's a payment schedule, and state special ed aid is actually, a lot of it is paid in arrears. We don't get the final payment till like
the next
March or April of next year because of the tuition adjustment for tuition students. So, yeah, we have a long ways to go before we get our final payment there. Then I also increased the general education aid to reflect the 315 kindergarten students because I was so low in my projection, which is a good thing by almost $128,000. And then we added one operating capital project, and that is a CEC wrap security. And maybe Tim wants to talk about that.
Yeah, it's been a concern raised by a number of our parents coming into the CEC where we have adults, whether it's, we've got adult programming there, not just with the fitness rooms, but also in the classroom, like 55 Alive and stuff like that. And nowadays, even though we do have a system in place where people have to show a band or, recognize who they are, I think they're still concerned by, especially our young parents of kids, that there's a mix of adults and kids there. So, meeting with Craig and then also Steve from Econ, they've got a solution in mind to keep things separate, where you come in for preschool, come all the way through into the big hallway, and then go down, and there'll be an entrance down there. And then the one that we have that goes back to the fitness room would just be for adults. So it'll be more secure, and it's something that,
Still coming from the front
yep,
doors?
still coming in that way, yep. And then the adults for, like the fitness room can still come up from the bottom. Just, that wouldn't change for them. We just, it'd be easier for them. They can come up earlier right now. We limit to, we don't limit, I think, till 15 minutes before, and that's been a complaint we've heard about from our fitness people. So it'll be a win-win situation, but it's just one of those things that's just, it's been there. We've been hearing a lot and concerns, and Mary Bartuzik and Chanel Kirsch, in their surveys, it's come up, and it's never going to end unless we fix it. And I think we have a solution to that, and that's the cost of $60,000. But if we're going to do it, we better do it right.
What's the solution?
Is basically the entryways for both will be separate. It won't be, never have a mix.
So you're making new entry doors or new entry facility? Is that
Yeah,
what the six-
on the far end there, on the east end there, that'll be the entrance for preschool. You'll still come in, the main entry here, but they'll, instead of taking that turn right by the counter there, they'll go through the next set of doors, go left down to the preschool, right down to the wrap programming and community ed. So that hallway that, you go down, and then it's family, child education, all that stuff. It'll just come in the backside. And then the one hallway we have right now that goes in the classroom, fitness room, that'd be just adults. So there'll be no,
mingling?
yeah, the children will be on their own area. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And Craig right now is working with, we have to make sure all the changes fit the fire code and all of that, so he's working on that. It might not get done this summer, but he's working on it, so.
Yeah. And he has to work with Wold on this too,
Yeah, because of the fire and the exits and all that.
exit doors.
Okay, so, updated 18-19 projected year end has an unassigned fund balance of 7.7 million, and the preliminary budget shows 5.8 million. This is just a quick chart that I usually show on the fund balance. The estimated, the actuals, and then the estimated for 18-19 and 19-20. Nutrition and Community Services is new. The detail is in the report that is posted online. Nutrition Services, very similar, programs and everything that there was in 18-19. Community Services, you'll notice an increase in revenue and expenses from the prior year, and that is because we'll have the fitness center for the full year as opposed to just for 7 months. So that kind of expanded that whole line item, but there shows the fund balance, Nutrition Services. We expect to grow that fund balance this year and next, and Community Services grow it this year, but then a slight decrease in 19-20. Construction and bond funds. Construction fund, our projected year-end balance is going to be about $28,000. We're almost to the end of all of our projects. And then hopefully by 19-20, that balance will be zero. I mean, that's the goal. is to spend all the bond funds for the purpose that they were issued. And we should be all done with everything, the high school and AC project, all the deferred maintenance projects, as well as the construction. Bond fund, you can see there, that's just, you know, kind of an in and out thing with our bond payments and levy. So the next step is September, we have updated enrollment. We always hope for a larger enrollment than what I project. October, we'll have the audit results. I've been working with the auditor already. Got them set up for that October, I think it's 28th or 29th meeting. And then December, we'll have the final 19-20 budget. January, we have the updated 5-year projections, and then we start the process all over again.
Fun.
Yeah, so that is the budget. We need a vote for approval unless you have further questions, any questions for me.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary budget for 1920.
Second.
Any further comments, questions?
Oh,
All in
looks like
favor?
it's all spilled out.
Aye.
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 Motion passes 4-0.
That was scary.
You got to ask real quick if you want to do a question.
Okay.
Meal prices.
Yes, the meal price recommendation. So we usually give this is same meeting that we do the budget, because the budget, of course, has a lot to do with how we set our meal prices for the year. So just a brief financial history for nutrition services. As you can see, from 17-18 to 18-19, we do expect to increase our fund balance, as well as for 19-20, as I just presented. These are our current lunch prices, elementary, secondary, adult, and milk, and then our current breakfast prices. This is the meal price recommendation. We are recommending no increase. Actually, that's the next slide. No change to lunch or breakfast meal prices. We did increase them 5 cents last year. We don't like to increase them every year. For a while, the federal government made us increase them. But that requirement, as long as you have a positive fund balance, they no longer require that, which makes complete sense. No sense to keep raising meal prices if you don't have to. And this shows the comparable information for our comparable districts on the top and our surrounding districts on the bottom. You can see we're very good. We're just a tad low in the 9-12 lunch. We actually could probably increase those. Our comparable districts are 283 average, and the surrounding districts are 280. We're at 275. But again, financially, we don't really see a need, so we'll probably increase them next year. And breakfast, we're also just a tad low. Remember, it's only the 3rd year we've offered breakfast, and we did increase them a little bit last year, but we would prefer to leave them alone this year, or for the next year, so we can keep participation up there. Yeah, so I think that just shows a history of where we've been. Back in 2005-06, we were only at less than $2 for a meal for a secondary, but this shows a brief history with no change this year.
Sandy, have we improved at all on parents paying or not going into a debt on their lunch bills?
Not a whole lot, a little bit. Not a whole lot. I'll be reporting on that in the July 15th meeting, because we have to do a resolution to transfer money from the general fund to offset the bad debt. I can't say it's improved tremendously, no, unfortunately.
We're not alone, that's for sure.
We're
It's
not
a
alone.
Common problem.
Yeah, good question.
Going to collections.
So any questions, any other questions?
Can I get a motion to approve the meal prices?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Transfer of funds from Fund 1 to Fund 4.
Right, this is a transfer we've done every year, probably since my 2nd year here. And we do this transfer because the aid we get for our early childhood evaluations, pre-kindergarten evaluations, the aid is not enough to cover our costs. And this is a very typical problem that districts have. And so we do an annual transfer every year to cover that loss. When I first started, we had a negative fund balance in our unassigned Fund 4 of about almost $100,000, and we chipped away at that, and now we just do it annually. There is a general fund function for the early childhood screening, and that is that they do child find, for early childhood special ed. So there is a general fund function that's being fulfilled by these early childhood screenings, so it is an appropriate transfer. And the statute allows us to make this transfer.
Right.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider the resolution to make a permanent fund transfer from Fund 01 to Fund 04.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas Minnesota state aid is insufficient for developmental screening expenditures, and this has contributed to an annual deficit in the unassigned fund balance in Fund 04. Now therefore be it resolved by the New Prague Area School Board of Education that New Prague Area Schools will transfer $15,000 of its unassigned general fund balance to the unassigned Community Services Fund for the year 18-19. How do you vote on this, Tammy?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Leo?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
Next resolution is for the severance commitment.
Yes, again, since I started with the district, we have been putting money away, kind of in a little savings account, in the form of committing funds for severance and other post-employment benefit payments. We do still have a few contracts. All the benefits have been sunset, but we do have some contracts that have severance payments in them. And the biggest group was the teachers, and they all retired last year. So now basically, we started the year with $264,000 committed, and we expect to pay $75,000 this year. And the good news is we don't have to commit any additional funds, and that will leave us with $188,947 committed at the end of this year for future severance payments.
At this time, I'll consider motion for the resolution to commit funds for future severance and other post-employment benefit payments.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded to consider the following resolution. Now therefore be it resolved by the New Prague Area School Board of Education that New Prague Area Schools will commit a portion of the unassigned general fund balance to account for future severance and other post-employment benefit liability to enable better planning for future payments as it desires. The school board can adjust the amount of money committed for these purposes within the general fund balance. The Board of Education committed $263,947 in the general fund for year 17-18. New Prague Area Schools expects to pay $75,000 in post-employment payments during the year 18-19. The Board of Education commits an additional $0 in the general fund for 18-19. The total amount of general fund committed for the end of the 18-19 year is $188,000 and $188,947. How do you vote on this resolution, Leo?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
Next, we have the long-term facility maintenance plan approval.
Yes, this is an approval that is required by state statute every year to allow us to levy for the long-term facility maintenance revenue. And there are two documents there. There's the revenue projection as well as the expenditure projection. These are 10-year projections. Obviously, we focus most on the next 2 to 3 years. We don't know everything that'll happen the next 10 years, but the requirement is that we have a 10-year plan. So the revenue projection just basically shows, based on our ADMs and the amount per ADM, along with the average building age, how much revenue we will get, and that's split between Fund 1 for pay-as-you-go projects and Fund 7. We bonded last year for the high school roof and AC project, and that comes out of Fund 7. So there's some revenue that comes out of that goes into Fund 7, and then the remainder goes into Fund 1 for the annual projects. The expenditure projection includes both the health and safety projects as well as the new LTFM revenue, and those numbers are listed there and just need board approval on this plan. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the plan for the long-term capital improvement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Certification of district population.
Again, this is required every year, mainly for the purposes of community education aid, and levy numbers. This year, actually, Krista does the calculation. We basically call to our various communities and find out how many building permits have been issued. We multiply that number by 2.52, knowing that's about the average number of participants per household. And so at this time, we are requesting action to certify the school district population at 19,993.
Couldn't just make it an even 20, huh?
But there is no fraction there, that's nice. All whole numbers. I'll make a motion to approve the school district population at the 19,993 number.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Joint powers agreement for the Fitness and Aquatic Center.
Yeah, so this is the second amendment since we created the joint powers for the Fitness and Aquatic Center. And basically what this does is it eliminates the part of the agreement that dealt with the outdoor pool, as well as the summer ball program. There's really, outdoor pool closed, and so we wanted to take that out. Summer ball is really a standalone program, and we're gonna really take the city out of that. And so we'll no longer receive that $11,000 we got annually from the city to run the outdoor pool and the summer ball program. They go on their own, and then what's left is just the Fitness and Aquatic Center, and no changes to that language at all.
And isn't some of the summer ball program now being run by a staff person?
Well, yeah, the management of it is being done by Kevin.
Ed,
Yep, yep, he starts on Monday.
Great. I get a motion to approve the,
Motion to approve the second amendment to the Aquatic Center. Fitness and Aquatic Center.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
I'm taking
You got to really pay attention.
I know, I'm like, oh.
Another resolution for the school calendar adjustment. Tim's going to talk about
Yes, we need a resolution for this. Made a mistake on, fortunately we found out, but in time, but counting the elementary days, we counted 173 days, but technically, because we have the assessment days at the beginning for elementary, you can't count those as student days, so we actually went under, so we need to identify 2 extra days, being February 25th and April 11th to the school year. So we need to reapprove this calendar adjustment for the 2018-19 school year. And Sandy?
And with that, taking advantage of the school Snow Day Relief Act, we are then required to pay our non-certified staff. And the 2 days that, the final 2 days, employees were eligible to use sick time already. So the majority of those employees have already been paid for that, so we'll be refunding the sick time that they used. There are 59 employees that will be paid for some unpaid. A couple of them I'm sure was just an hour or two that they were short, but a total of 59 employees will be paid something. And that total payment for all funds is about $5,400. Then we're also looking at our subs for that day. We are required to pay any subs that were scheduled to work that day, and we're currently looking at that, so that will be an additional amount. So basically, people will be getting back their sick time that they use for those final 2 days.
So we need to read this resolution.
Yep.
At this time, I'll consider a motion to look at the resolution for a school calendar adjustment for the 2018-2019 school year.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas the Independent School District 721 canceled instructional days on February 25th and April 11th due to health and safety concerns. Whereas the Minnesota Legislature enacted laws that permits Minnesota school districts and charter schools to count these dates as instructional days for purposes of calculating the number of hours and days in the school year pursuant to Minnesota law, and the calculation of average daily membership pursuant to Minnesota law for students enrolled both before and after those school closure dates. Whereas the school district wishes to count the dates identified above for the purpose set forth as the law pertains. Now therefore be it resolved by the School Board of Independent School District 721, State of Minnesota, pursuant to the laws of Minnesota 219, Chapter 5, Senate File 1743, the canceled instructional days of February 25th, 2019, and April 11, 2019 will be counted in the calculation of the number of hours and days in the school year and the calculation of the average daily membership for the 2018-2019 school year. How do you vote on this, Leo?
Aye.
Kitten?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
Next, we have several handbooks to approve, and I think we can do them all as one because pretty much the only changes were to dates, except for if you read through the transportation driver's handbook, they did some editing there of, it was kind of entertaining, actually. They took out some comments, it seemed like. Does anyone have any questions on anything they saw in those?
No, they were pretty straightforward.
Yeah, the
changes,
bus
yeah.
was really the only one that had.
I'll make a motion to approve the middle school activities handbook for 2019-2020, and also the approval of the high school activities handbook for 2019-2020.
Second.
We can do all five of them.
Oh, I'm sorry, and continuing. Approval of the high school coaches advisors handbook for 2019-2020. Also the approval of the transportation parent handbook for 2019-2020. And finally, the approval of the transportation driver handbook for 2019-2020.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Resolution for school board control of extracurricular activities.
Yes, this is a change required because of GASB 84. And basically, GASB 84 says that if there's any administrative involvement in all in spending of funds, the funds have to be accounted for in the general fund. And student activity accounts do have administrative involvement by the district. We have advisors, we have the activities director, we've got the business office, the principals, and so forth. So we have to move them into the general fund under board control. Basically, the changes that will take place because of this is they will be required to follow UFAR's coding, because everything will be in the general fund. When I do the revised budget in December, they will have revenue and expense budgets in there because they're a general fund account now. And the third thing is that when you approve the checks, the financial reports every month, it will include a list of the student activity checks. Even though it will be in the general fund, we are going to be putting them in a fund 50, and then we're going to crosswalk it to the general fund so we can keep track of it a little bit better. Because things like student signature accounts, or student signatures, as well as some of the guidelines for how the funds can be used still are in effect, and it will help us better flag those to make sure we're following the rules. Shouldn't be a lot different of how the funds can be used. There are some differences. I'll be working with the advisors and Brad Skogerbo on that. Probably the biggest change is when the auditors do this separate activity account audit. They basically give an opinion that is a modified opinion because there's not internal control for cash receipts. You've got kids walking around with money in their pocket, they're selling this and that. So I am going to have to work with Brad Skogerbo over the summer to put in some internal controls. There still will be kids walking around with money in their pockets. There's no way we can get around that. However, there are some controls. There's a form called a fundraiser reconciliation report that they can do to try to get a handle on that, because we wouldn't want that to impact the opinion that the auditor gives us on our main financial statement. So that will be a pretty big change for advisors, and it will be necessary that they follow some new rules.
And is it, I mean, that's got to be the same for all school districts, right? And that it hasn't been under strict
mean,
accounting.
What was the cause for this change?
A GASB 84.
What is that?
GASB 84 is GASB is the national accounting governing body. And so they issued an opinion that if there's administrative control over the funds, they have to be accounted for in the general fund.
Okay.
And that's the cause of this, yeah. And some districts have their activity accounts under board control. Most do not, but some do. I've talked to a couple that do, and yeah, there are some adjustments we're gonna have to make, but I think we can do it. The biggest thing is the fundraising. We don't want it to affect the opinion the auditor gives for us. Basically, it'll be another segregation of duty kind of a thing, an internal control kind of thing.
How do they know if, I mean, a lot of times they like, do like a fundraiser at a basketball game and they just go around and collect cash. Does that affect how they can raise money?
No, they can still raise money, but like I say, there has to be some internal controls to go with that. 2 people counting the money, things like that. And yeah, so I did verify with our auditor, as long as we've got some decent internal controls, it will not affect the overall audit opinion for our financial statements. But it will take some work.
And this is something that's, wouldn't you say, with the student activity accounts, I mean, that always keeps coming up, not just in our district, but other districts too, and concerned by the auditor. Just,
Yeah, a school
just
district
was-
made the news by having some of this money
Right.
not accounted for.
there's been
So-
over the last 20 years, people getting into trouble
Right.
annually with student activity accounts.
They're trying to tighten the controls on is what they're
They
doing.
are.
Yep.
It's a lot of money that goes through these accounts.
You
It's a
bet.
lot of money.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
It's tempting for people to,
Yep, it's a lot of money.
pocket it.
And, oh, by the way, they won't actually go under board control until July 1, but we need the resolution passed before June 30th. Resolution, I think.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider the resolution regarding board control of extracurricular activities.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to considering the following resolution. Whereas Minnesota state law will require changes in the accounting for student activity funds, and the school boards must take charge of and control all student activities of the public schools in the district, and that all money received or expended for extracurricular activities shall be recorded in the same manner as other revenues and expenditures of the district. Therefore, be it resolved that the New Prague Board of Education, Independent School District 721, directs the district's administration to implement the requirements of the Minnesota Session Laws 2019 First Session, Chapter 1, Article 1, Section 5. How do you vote on this, Tammy?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Leo?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
And our final resolution is to accept a donation of a 1996 Toyota Camry for the automotive class.
At this time, I'll entertain a motion to consider the resolution to accept the donation from Joe Hrubia.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to consider the following resolution. Whereas Joe Hrubia wishes to donate a 1996 Toyota Camry valued at $1,451 to the high school automotive program. Now therefore it be resolved that the New Prague Area School Board of Education shall accept the donation under no conditions. How do you vote on this, Leo?
Yes.
Kitten?
Yes.
Tammy?
Yes.
Dennis, yes. Item passes.
Tammy, want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Gotta go.
Have fun.